Before I start my YouTube video, I think it's really important for me to raise awareness of the situation that's currently going on in Zimbabwe. This is really important for me because I am Zimbabwean and also the guest in my video is from Zimbabwe as well. So, of course, it is essential for me to highlight the current humanitarian issue that is going on in Zimbabwe. If you'd like to support and help with the issue that is currently going on, the human rights issues that have been currently facing Zimbabwe, please see the description below with charities and organizations that you can use to donate money. I felt that it is not right for me to start this video talking about, STEM talks, etc., without addressing the current issue that is facing Zimbabwe because I am Zimbabwean and also the guest in my channel is Zimbabwean. So please donate and please raise awareness about the current situation that is going on now. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In today's video, I have a special guest named Pendo. So I'm going to kickstart this video by asking her to introduce herself, tell us who she is and where she works.
Sure. So hi, my name is Pendo O'Donoghue and I am a manager at Google, based here in Dublin. So I'm a little bit far from where Yemu is, but delighted to be talking to her today.
Fantastic. Can you tell us what your role is within the company?
Sure. So I am a head of sales, and what that basically means is I head up a team that looks after advertisers in the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. So my team would talk to advertisers and help them make the most out of their advertising. And the advertisers are all based, as I said, around Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Johannesburg. So we cover a lot of markets at the moment. So a whole continent and part of a region as well.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit more about your role? I know you've briefly touched on it, but I'd like to know a little bit more in depth about is it AdWords you said?
Yes, so we work on the advertising side of Google. I think when people think tech, normally it's engineering, but so we are on the side that basically generates some of the revenue. And so when it comes to my particular role, so there's a lot of management, obviously, as I said. So it's around mentoring, helping my team grow, but also helping them, take some really great sales to their advertisers and help their advertisers then make the most out of Google products. And so the products that we are looking at are AdWords, but within AdWords, you've got a lot of different things. So you've got search. So when people are searching online, click on the ads, or YouTube, and also just display, which is, some of the ads that you might see as you browse the internet. So all those would come from the AdWords product or the Google Ads product.
Fantastic. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey from high school to getting your career at Google?
Yeah, gosh, so high school is a long time ago for me. So over 20 years ago is when I finished high school, so a really long time ago. So I went to the University of Zimbabwe, and initially I thought I wanted to do law. My dad was a lawyer, and I'd grown up going, that's definitely what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then it got to almost getting into uni, and I was like, actually, I don't think I want to do it anymore. There was just a lot of. I worked with my dad in the summers or during the school holidays, so I knew what it was about, and I was kind of put off a little bit. It wasn't as glamorous as it looked on TV. So I ended up doing sociology because I thought I wanted to get into human resources initially, and that was at the time was called personnel management, which was the sort of the buzz phrase of the day, and that was what I wanted to do. One of my aunts is actually in HR, so I thought I wanted to do that. But when I finished college, I'd actually met the person who ended up being my husband or ex-husband now, and he was an Irishman. Based in Ireland. So I initially wanted to move over to Ireland, but got a working holiday visa for the UK. So spent 2 years in the UK and just kind of did odd jobs here and there, working at a couple of restaurants and everything else. And then I moved over to Ireland and started using my degree because I went into research, so market research, and I was a research exec for a while. And so that was 18 years ago. And then I got a little bit bored. After a couple of years, almost 3 years in this company. And for the reasons around sort of progression, it was a very small company in Ireland, and I was looking for something that was going to stretch me, something that was going to have, opportunity to grow. And the role just didn't go beyond what I was doing really. And if you wanted to get into any sort of, bigger roles in the company, you either had to go to Northern Ireland or the UK,
Mhm.
or have somebody leave the company. And nobody was planning to leave the company at that time.
Yeah.
So ended up staying in Moray for a little while. It was called Ipsos. And then I was looking around for a new role. And Monster was the search engine of the day if you're looking for a job. And they had an ad that basically said, "Do you like the internet?" I was like, "Oh, this kind of sounds interesting." Google had been around for a little while at that time, but I didn't know it was Google that was hiring, because Yahoo was also based in Ireland and they'd been starting to recruit as well around the same time.
Mhm.
So I went for the role. Then it was obviously turned out it was Google. And they had a great reputation already at that point. So I joined Google as a very junior sort of level. What we used to do back in the day was actually review ads. So, the ads would be going before they were served. We'd look at those and make sure they were compliant with policy and things like that.
Yeah.
So I did that for a little while. And then I, stayed 15 years here, moving around different roles. So working my way up the ladder. So initially started off at really bottom of the rung of the ladder, working with the UK market, and then moved around working with a few different industries within the company, and then changed regions to emerging markets and Africa about 7 years ago. And then I've changed a few times as well. The markets that I work with over that time.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah, I was trying to, fit 20 something odd years into a few minutes.
Oh, the other question is, what has made you stay at Google for? Is it now 15 years?
Yeah, it's 15 years because I started on the 18th of July, 2005. It's
Wow.
funny how, in Google, everybody remembers their start date, because we call it a Google versary.
Mhm.
So you always, you celebrate it every year.
Mm.
So what's made me stay? I think the reasons that made me leave my previous job are partly what has made me stay in Google.
Mhm.
So I was looking for a job that had kind of limitless opportunity. And Google was like that because of the size of it.
Mhm.
And, once you're in Dublin, and the size of the operation that we have here is huge. It's about 8,000 people in Dublin. And the beauty is, it's like many, and I say this to some of my team when they're looking for career changes,
Mhm.
there are so many different companies in one company. So you can always move around and find opportunities to stretch yourself, do projects, etc. So I've
Mhm.
been kept motivated. I've been, kept really interested in what I do.
Mhm.
Obviously, becoming a manager in Google is it's a whole different thing that you do, but it's fun as well.
Mm.
And I think I'm getting fulfillment out of it. It's not always easy as a woman, and then as a Black woman,
Mhm.
in this kind of industry. When I started in Google all those years ago, I was the only Black person in Google, and up until about 2 years ago, actually last year, I was the only Black manager. And then I promoted somebody in my team to manager. And then now we're two of us that are Black.
Yeah.
So it's still been a place where I enjoy it, right? And I think for me, if you're having fun in what you do, then definitely change it.
Mm.
So I'm still enjoying what I do.
That's amazing to hear because for me, that's what I'm kind of looking for, a company where I have that flexibility, the mobility to move around internally within a company
Yeah.
if I get bored of one job.
Mm-hmm.
Also, from what I'm hearing, the work culture sounds really good. Could you expand a bit on that?
Yeah, so the work culture is, something that people talk about quite a lot. And I think there've been books written about the Google culture. And a lot of it is very, very true. So if you're interested in something, there is always that space to explore. So I'll give you an example, gosh, must have been about 13 years ago initially.
Mhm.
I was very keen on starting a chapter of the Black Googler Network. So we've got what we call employee resource groups. And
Mm.
these are groups that are, they advocate for a community. People can get involved, if you identify with the community. So, there's no reason why I wouldn't be able to. And, you're given permission to kind of, try these things.
Mhm.
And we started that chapter a long time ago. So now it's flourishing because we've had a lot more people come into the company of, different diversity types. So when I look at Black people, we've really increased a number in Dublin.
Yeah.
Not to the numbers we obviously would like to be, but I think we're doing a pretty good job at the moment.
Mm.
And so the culture is good. The culture is it is a very open
Mm.
place. I've been impressed quite recently with all the Black Lives Matter stuff that's
Mhm.
been going on. Our company's definitely taken a stand, and they've publicly said, their position in terms of, what they're going to commit to. So that is the kind of expectation I really, have of Google, because, they say they do what they say on what it says on the tin, and not every company is like that, and I'm aware of that.
Mm. Okay. What things do you not necessarily enjoy about working for Google? What are the difficulties working with such a high profile company?
Oh, what do I not enjoy? That's a really good question, because I think for me, it's if I don't enjoy something, I try and change it, so I don't let it bother me for too long.
Hmm.
But I would probably say it's not even I don't enjoy. I think you can get tired out quite quickly. So I've seen people over the years leave, because it is a very things move fast.
Yeah.
We work in quarters, so it feels like you're starting a new term almost every 3 months. So now we're halfway through the third quarter.
Mm.
And again, I work to targets and quotas. So it can get really, frustrating if, say, your numbers are not moving. But again, it's how do you make sure that you try and make sure you've got a plan for that. But I think there's a lot for me, as I said, if I don't like something, I would change it. And so, it's hard to say there's specific things that I've gone, "Ah, you know what, this
Yeah.
is actually something that I'd love to,
Hmm.
that is really grating on me."
Hmm.
I'd probably left if there was loads of those.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Another question, which I think is quite important for this time. So, how has your experience as a Black woman working at Google changed throughout the course of your career, and how do you see it changing?
So I think over the course of my career, things that have changed were, initially I think adapting to the American culture, right? Because
Okay.
Google's an American company, right?
Mhm.
So we have a strong, the culture is pushed down, so to speak, from the US. But then at the same time, over the years, they've allowed that to also be localized. So we've got offices now globally,
Mhm.
and people tend to have a bit of a local flavor, a lot of a
Yeah.
local flavor actually in their different offices. So I
Yeah.
think when I first started in Google, it was learning that, you know what, I came from a background where you don't shout or boast about your achievements. Your
Yeah.
work for itself. And I
Hmm.
learned quite quickly on that actually you do need to talk about what you've done.
Hmm.
Our performance management system is one where you do self-assessments every so often, and so making sure that my narrative was strong and I was actually putting my story out there was something that I learned over the years.
Hmm.
And then I remember reading Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's quite a few things here that I can actually learn from,
Hmm.
and beginning to put yourself forward. And because sometimes you just naturally might, just sit back, somebody else says what you've just said, and you're like, I know I just said that, but do I just let that go, let somebody else take credit for what I just said? Because you say something and somebody repeats it, and the person leading the meeting goes, great idea.
Uh,
So I've learned over the years to now say, oh, I'm so glad you agree with my idea. If somebody repeats what I've said. So I'm not letting that kind of stuff, sort of pass me by. But that comes with, as you progress through your career. Because again, I've been working now for over 20 years. So, you get to grips with what you like and what you don't like, and
mhm.
things you really want to move on. So that's the kind of stuff that I've seen. And there's always the flip side, right? Where you do sometimes feel that, there've been times I've felt maybe not taken as seriously
Yeah.
as colleagues of a different color, because people sometimes have that unconscious bias. It does come in. We're working with humans. Google hires from society,
Mhm.
so there's always going to be that sense of the humanity coming through. So not everybody is perfect,
Mhm.
and neither am I. So there is always going to be that bias where, I mean, there've been a few times that I've gone, I do wonder whether that person is being that condescending
Mhm.
because of what they think I don't know, what they think I'm bringing to the table.
Mhm.
So you definitely learn to build a thicker skin, and stand up for yourself. And, the book Lean In for me was very, as I said, poignant. It was, we should lean in.
Yeah.
I know Sheryl Sandberg, when she wrote it, she'd also worked in Google. But it's pick the things that are right for you, and definitely learn from others around, people that have been through the journey. So it's been an interesting journey so far.
Interesting. So, where do you see your career going in the next 5 years?
It's an interesting one. So I am still enjoying Google at the moment. I still love sales. So hopefully in the next year or so, I'll be director within the company. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Who
Mhm.
knows? So it's one of these where if that happens, then I will probably reassess where else I want to move to within the company, because, like I said it a bit earlier, there are so many different companies within Google that
Yeah.
you will sometimes, it's like, what do you want to do?
Mm.
I love, and what I've decided over the last few years is to only do the stuff that I really love and enjoy. You know, I'm on the second half of my career journey, not even second half, but probably what, less than 20 years left, hopefully, of working. So it's to do things that I enjoy, but also that are going to be impactful. And so when I think about, the work that my team do, while we generate revenue for Google, on the other side is our advertisers. Some of them start off really small and end up growing really, really large because they're able to get leads and they're able to get the business coming through. And so what ends up happening is they're able to employ people. So, in a way, we're actually giving back to economies and helping, on that front. And it's been fantastic to see that with some of the advertisers we have, especially in sort of Kenya, Nigeria, where people come back and go, you know what, let me just tell you now that I've had the best year ever. I've hired another 10 people when you meet them. And so I like to continuing to work in a role that definitely has impact, that's tangible. And the fact that, it's work with Africa for me is huge. So it'll still be probably something connected to Africa, whether it's still sales or maybe moving into something that's a bit more kind of in, maybe non-profit. I'll see how that goes. But at some point, obviously, amass enough to start giving back even more.
Wow, that sounds great. My last question is, what advice would you give girls and women who are looking to have a career in one of the FANG companies and or Google, or getting into tech anyway?
So first of all, I would say always believe that it's a place for you too, right? I've spoken to women over the last few years, and because we run a few programs for university students, and often they don't think that anyone else like them is in these companies, right? So they feel that, oh, you know what, it's just for maybe white men or white women or whatever. And it is very much a place where you can get into. So I think you sometimes need to throw off that imposter syndrome that makes you feel that you're not good enough or you don't have the capabilities, because you absolutely do. And I think I see a lot more sort of imposter syndrome sometimes with our white colleagues but still they fake it till they make it, right? And we don't. So it's to definitely do that. So number one is absolutely believe you belong there, and you will get there. And then secondly, I would say once you're in there, take some risks, and opportunities do come up. Don't always stay in a safe zone. It's, try and stretch yourself continuously. And again, it's, talk about what your achievements are. I learned over the years to do that, and I still don't do that well enough even now. I still think that, I'm sure there's more that I could do in that front. But it's, you are your own best storyteller. So tell your story really well, know what your story is and get it out there, and again, once you're in there, is don't be scared to ask for help. Sometimes we feel that it's a show of weakness if you ask for help, where actually, for me, any help that I get is just going to make me an even stronger person or a stronger professional. So make sure that you're not shying away from that type of thing, because what I've seen over the years, again, is a lot of people are scared to admit that they need support in some fashion. Whereas I've actually mentored quite a few white men in Google, and they are very proactive about looking for support and looking for help and knowing who to find. So get your mentors, your sponsors, people that are there, that you're champions, and make sure that you're just ready for that big opportunity, because it'll definitely come.
Fantastic. This is the cheeky last one. I know I said the last question, but this is the last question. What interview tips can you give people who are looking to apply for Google? What do you look for when you're recruiting?
It's a really good question. And so first and foremost, I expect people to have studied, right? Treat this like an exam, and learn about the company. If you're going to say, if I was hiring somebody for my world, if you don't know the product, I would actually go, So when I was interviewing for Google, honestly, I spent so many hours researching the company. I knew how they made their money. It's not something that you can ever take for granted, because it might just come up, right? And so really, really prepare yourself. Use your recruiter, use the person that you're talking to and staffing a huge amount to get as much intel and info about the company that you can, about the role. And if you can, reach out to somebody that might be doing it. Do it on LinkedIn. People do this all the time, and you'll be surprised how many people actually go. They will spend a few minutes maybe chatting to you about their role. Just ask, so get yourself as much preparation as possible, because I tell you now, it is so obvious when I've interviewed somebody and they have not spent any time doing this. And I will usually know in the first 10, 15 minutes that this interview is probably not going to go very far because the person will be struggling. And the other thing is just keep your cool, right? I think they're going to be probably, especially with the way things are now, a lot more interviews being done over the internet, on Zoom, on Hangouts, whatever. And so prepare yourself for that, because you have to probably come over a little bit more, be a bit more gregarious than you might be in person. So, be prepared for that and make sure that you've properly, you've organized yourself. You're not, panicking in the middle of the meeting. By the way, I've interviewed people on Hangouts before, and I know when people are reading notes. So don't read notes.
Yeah.
We can tell. But again, it's once you feel you've done as much as you can, if you don't get the role, it's not meant for you, right? I always firmly believe that, and there'll be something probably much better coming your way.
Right, guys, so the interview hasn't stopped there. We've decided to have a bit more of an informal chat, and I can't remember, what was the question that I just asked you?
Oh, about staying in Google for so long.
Yeah, I was just basically curious as to why she decided to stay for Google, and she's just kind of currently explaining how right now she's the one who gets headhunted by the big companies. And it's interesting you say that, because obviously I'm a graduate right now, and the problem we have is that we're looking for jobs and we get rejected, and we feel like we have to go for whatever says yes, even though it's not necessarily what we want to go for. But just kind of talking a little bit more about, once you get into these companies, how you're kind of lured into different directions by other big companies.
Yeah, so I mean, that's it. I mean, when I would have started, I would have obviously been in a similar situation to you guys, right? Where you're looking and saying, you just say yes to whatever, right? And it's all about getting that foot in the door. So it might not be the ideal dream job, but if your game plan is to then eventually move somewhere else, get what experience and whatever you need there, because further up you go. And you have to think about your brand and how you're building that as well in whatever industry that you're in. And so for me, like, I've got friends that go to other companies and they tell their recruiters, I worked with a really great person. If they're asked, do you know anyone at Google that you think we should speak to? And then this is where I get the calls from. And so it becomes we've heard you're good, we've heard you're great, and so we'd love to get you to move over to us. And so have a think around how you build your brand in the right way in whatever industry that you're in, whatever company that you're in, because that could be what takes you to that next step. That's what opens opportunities. And I think something that we didn't talk about was, and I'll bring it up now, is around, so you've got your brand and that needs to be strong, but also your networking needs to be strong as well, right? Because a lot of roles, again, it's like people say, do you know? I was talking to a recruiter recently who was like, okay, you don't want to do this, but is there another role that might suit, or do you know anybody who you think might be interested? And of course, I'm then going to say, well, I know XYZ is looking for a role, or has that great skill set, and this is how this all kind of works. And so that's where you want to be, because yes, while we hire people that just apply sort of cold to Google, we've also got a strong referral program. So people do refer people that they know, and so that's where you want to be. People are going, you know what, I can vouch for this person's brand and abilities.
Yeah, I think what I've learned, it's not about like what you know, it's about who you know. I mean, it's important of what you know, but a lot of the time I find once you're in a circle of networks, it's like, do you know this person? Or like when I have an opportunity, like there's a tech program or something, in my head I'll think, okay, who would I know who'd be interested in this? Would they know someone who knows? So the importance of networking is essential, I think, because that's a lot of job opportunities are spread internally before they're exposed to everyone else. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And that definitely does happen. So what you want to be is, that name at the tip of someone's tongue to go, actually, that person would be amazing for this. Because I remember back in the day when I moved to emerging markets from the UK team and, within Google, I didn't know that the role, and I'd always said, if I was going to move from the UK team, I love that team. My team was amazing. A group of 10 really, really cool people that I loved working with. I remember thinking at the time, I wasn't really looking for something, but I was, and I'd always gone, God, I'd love to work with Africa, but there's only going to be, obviously I needed a manager role, and the team was so tiny, they definitely did not need 2 managers. Then the manager that was hiring for that role, we bumped into each other at somebody's leaving drinks, and he was like, oh, tell me a bit more about yourself. And, we had this conversation. And then he was like, oh, would you move? And I said, well, I'd move teams definitely, especially if something came up in Africa. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, he was like, "Hey, I've got a role in my team. Would you be keen?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Is it Africa?" And he said, "Yes, it is." And so, that is kind of how I got to apply for that, and interviewed and got the role. But it was quite interesting that if I'd not spoken to him, I probably would still be, I'd probably be doing something else or working with a different market or region at the moment.
Mm. How's the salary progression? Obviously, you don't have to state your salary, but how is the salary progression? Because I heard some people are scared that you work for such a company and then you're stagnant. So how does the salary progression work with your career progression?
It actually works well, and I think Google is quite open about saying that we run what we call a merit-based sort of salary process. So the better you do, then the more you get.
Mm.
So it is very much, for me, it's been absolutely fine. That's why I'm still there. But so they pay really well. But again, it's you feel that your work is rewarded. So yeah, again, it's as long as you can make sure that you get great performance ratings, you're good.
How do you know you're getting the same pay as your counterparts?
So unless I ask them, you actually can't tell. So that is something that we don't have a system where I will know what the person at the same level as me is getting.
Yeah.
But that I would have to ask, and if they wanted to, then they'll tell me. But at the moment, you'd have to just assume that there is some sort of sort of equity there. I know in the US is different because they can actually assess, they can have a look at demographic level, so they can see black people, white, whatever. They can check all the different races and make sure that there are no weird equity discrepancies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
What other companies would you be interested to work with?
Oh gosh, I think all the big tech ones are always interesting for me because I think culture is going to be different in every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some are at different stages of sort of maturity compared to where Google is. Google been around for a really long time. And so I think all the tech ones would be fun. And in that said, I think I'll probably, might do that for a few years. And then eventually start looking for something that is a little bit more, probably smaller, a bit more startup-y, but yeah, so I think that those are the kind of companies I probably look at.
So you're basically staying in the magic circle of tech companies.
For a minute, yeah, yeah. As long as big tech is doing well, why
Um,
not?
how is it how's the Google like looking after you, like packages, like how is it for women on maternity or when you need to have a break? Like what are the bonuses and the perks? Like what do they offer you? Do they give you good holidays? I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean the holidays are just I think they're quite standard in EMEA. I don't think we've got anything that is beyond. I think France you might get more days because
Mhm.
of their laws, but on average it's like there's nothing that is crazy about the number of days that we have off. But then when it comes to mat leave, you can take your 6 months, and then of course you can take up to a year if you include your unpaid EU
Mhm.
parental leave as well. So then there is the 6 month fully paid that you do get. At the moment, because of COVID and everything else, they've been very, very flexible
Mhm.
on people needing to take what they call carers leave, which is
Mhm.
essentially something that you can take to be able to look after your children if you need to. So that is also it's been fantastic to be able to have that flexibility. Just simply because with schools closed and everything else, sometimes it was just things were a little bit tough if you had, especially younger kids.
What about your working opportunities abroad? What countries have you traveled to and those types of experiences?
Oh gosh, I travel a lot because of my job. This is the longest I've been home
Mm.
in the last 15 years, actually. Because normally I am on a plane probably every 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
So my trips tend to be either Dubai, Johannesburg, Nigeria, Nairobi. And then, of course, there's always other places. So I was meant to have been in Japan in April. Obviously, that got cancelled.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of travel that comes with my role.
Mhm.
And the people in my team will go to visit their advertisers once a quarter as well. So they go for 2 weeks to whichever market that they support. But in terms of the offices I've traveled to, gosh, countries, I've been to so many at this point. Um,
I dream.
yeah, I've been to loads.
Wow. That's So I'd love to have a job or work for a company where I literally have the opportunity to be flying out every like couple, 3 or 4 weeks, because I live for that.
Yeah, I think it was more exciting when I was a bit younger. And then you get to the point where it's like, okay, oh no, I need to leave on Saturday. And so when it eats into your weekend, sometimes can get a bit tiring. But on the whole, I think the role is it's still good fun. And if it's not working, sometimes you travel for training. So
Mhm.
when I was meant to go to Japan in April, that was actually for a training course I was meant to do. And then in November, I was going to be in California.
Mhm.
So there is a lot there, but yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, no, that for me, that's the most exciting bit, like the opportunity, because the opportunity to travel, you get to see things, experience Google in a different country. And like for me, I found that because I've studied abroad in 2 countries, that experience just changes your mindset about how you study. And even then I applied that with my learning in the UK. Like you can take a little bit of something from a different country and apply that to your working culture. And it really does, broaden your mind, open your eyes, and allows you to see things differently. So I think that for me, being able to travel is a must. When we'll be able to travel properly again, I don't know. But for me, I think I need a company where that I'm traveling, I'm going here, I'm going to Dubai, I'm going to Japan, no, New York, and then, that's what I need. That's what I live for when it comes to working and having a job. So
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good fun. I think if you get those experiences or that opportunity, definitely grab it with both hands. Hold
mm,
on tight.
yeah, fab. All right then.
Cool.
That's officially it, guys. So thank you guys for watching this video again. We have our amazing guest Pendo, who works for Google. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and I'll be back with another video. Bye.